Welcome back to Rewild Your Life. I have a super simple recipe today that is so good. This is lentil curry. So the first thing you're going to do is just rinse a cup of red lentils. And I just used a sieve here. You can rinse it in a colander if you prefer. You're going to dice a medium onion. I believe this is a sweet onion, or you can use yellow. As well as quartering 2 medium potatoes. The original recipe I got inspired from uses sweet potato, but I'm glad I didn't use them because the dish would be very sweet. I also used a head of cauliflower and cut it down to just the crowns. So put a Dutch oven to medium-high heat so you can saute these onions. And I sauteed these in vegetable broth, but you can also use water or olive oil or canola oil if you prefer. I find the vegetable broth gives it lots of good flavor. So I went ahead and added in my diced onions, and I let those cook down for just a few minutes until they got yellow and slightly soft before doing anything else. Once these started cooking down some more, I went ahead and added the first few spices. These first few spices were 2 tablespoons of curry powder. And I started by just mixing that together with the onions, because really you're making curried onions. So this began to congeal really quickly. So throughout this meal you're going to add in vegetable broth or water as needed. So I added some extra here as it started to cake up just a bit. To this I then added a half a teaspoon of Himalayan sea salt and then stirred. Again, add any liquids as needed. Right about now, this dish is starting to already smell so good thanks to the curry and the onion sauteing on top of the stove. Once that started cooking, you can go ahead and go to the side and make sure the rest of your vegetables are prepped. Here you want to do little small bite sizes of the crowns, enough for 1 bite full, removing as much of the stems as possible. So make sure all of that is in order, because once the onions have cooked down, you're going to start adding things. Here I added a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes and mixed that in well with the onions and spices. Keep a good eye on your pot, as again throughout you'll often have to add more liquid. Now you can add your rinsed lentils. To this you're going to use 2 14-ounce cans of diced tomatoes, but don't drain them because you'll need that liquid. The recipe then calls for 1.5 cups of water, but I chose to add vegetable broth to make it just that much more flavorful as the lentils absorb the liquid. You're going to add more than this throughout. I would say I probably ended up adding more like 2.25 cups. So then you will add your diced vegetables, and hopefully not as messy as I did. Go ahead and get all of this a good stir. You're going to want to make sure the curried onions aren't sticking too much to the bottom of your Dutch oven or pot, and you're going to need to consistently stir this while it's heating through. Set this up to a high heat until it boils. As it's boiling, be sure to give it consistent stirring, as the onions do tend to stick. Now that it's boiling, you go ahead and turn it down to a low temperature because you're going to simmer it. And once it does get down to a simmer is when you're going to cover it. We'll go ahead and add any more liquids as needed, because you want this to be somewhat of the consistency of a stew. Now you go ahead and cover and wait. In the meantime, you can find a similar recipe I got my inspiration from from messmakesfood.com, and this is called lentil cauliflower sweet potato curry dinner. And again, I just swapped the potatoes instead of sweet potatoes, as my husband doesn't really care for sweet potatoes, and honestly I think the dish with the influence of the curry would have been far too sweet if you had used sweet potatoes, so we like it with a little bit of the savory for sure. So now I'm going to just go ahead and put this together. This was kind of a mix it together and forget it sort of dish. It really didn't take that long, I'd say about an hour from start to finish. And just plate this up in a bowl. I really enjoyed mine topped with chives that were cut up. You could use green onions or parsley or even cilantro if you like. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this dish as much as we did. My husband even gave it a 9, which if you know him is high praise.